Hi, welcome to this video about digital product release. Today I'll be covering digital product release's adoption journey. This video will be most applicable to release admins, release process owners, and individuals interested in getting started with DPR. I'll be highlighting ServiceNow's perspective on the maturity steps within DPR's adoption journey and the value you can expect to achieve at each stage. Those stages start with using DPR to manually track and validate release readiness, all the way through building custom release policies leveraging ServiceNow records and third-party CI/CD tool data to automate release validation. Let's jump into it. The graphic you see here is ServiceNow's perspective on the adoption journey applicable for most customers aiming to implement DPR. The x-axis denotes the relative maturity within DPR, and the y-axis denotes the relative realized value. The first step in the adoption journey focuses on defining a release process within DPR using release templates and leveraging tasks and approval tasks to manage release execution. Tasks are manual activities defined within DPR that are associated to relevant phases of a release, and manual approval tasks are tasks that have approval tied to them. At this level of maturity, you're not yet integrating with third-party tools or using automated data-driven policies for release validation. At this stage, the management of release execution requires the PM or release manager to manually check for completion of tasks within a release phase to certify that that phase is ready before moving on to the next phase of a release. Despite the management of release readiness being entirely manual at this stage, you'll still get much of the key benefits of DPR. You'll get visibility across product releases within DPR. You'll have the ability to create changes with release traceability for auditability. And perhaps most importantly, you gain the ability to shift left validation activities, things like upstream reviews and approvals, validation of test results and security scans, away from change, which has historically served as the final gate before production. And instead, you can have those checks happen earlier in the relevant release phase that they occur in. In this DPR short video series that we're producing on Community, we also have videos showing users how to define approval definitions for approval tasks, and also how to create a release template that leverages tasks and approval tasks for validation of phase readiness in a release, so please check those out. The second stage of this adoption journey is where customers integrate with their release planning tools, for example SPM or Jira, to enable the automatic import of release features and epics and other work items to simplify the release planning within DPR and provide visibility into what is being addressed in a particular release. In the first maturity step, customers would most likely be performing release planning entirely outside of DPR. By leveraging this out-of-the-box integration, the top-level features, epics, and work items can be brought into DPR and be planned into applicable release versions for traceability into what's being built and modified within a release. At this stage, release execution continues to be mostly manual via tasks and approval tasks, but there is an opportunity to use some of our out-of-the-box policies. In the DPR video series, we also have a video walking through how to connect to a planning tool, and another video showing the light release planning that occurs within DPR, leveraging imported work items from those planning tools. The third stage of this adoption journey expands upon the CI/CD tool integrations with DPR and leans into automating aspects of release validation with the out-of-the-box policies we ship with the DPR policy content pack. By integrating with orchestration, testing, security tools, and more, relevant data is ingested by our DevOps data model that can then be used for automated data-driven validation of things like existence of critical vulnerabilities, code coverage, or test passing percentage. Note that this is the same DevOps data model and integrations used in our DevOps Change Velocity product. So if you're a DevOps Change customer, you might already have a lot of the work completed to be at this maturity step for DPR. It's also worth noting, though, that you do not need to have adopted DevOps Change to leverage the DevOps data model for DPR. Additionally, with this DevOps data tied to each discrete release, that data will also be associated to change requests that are tied to a release and thus enable better RCA if an issue does occur, helping reduce MTTR. In the DPR short video series on Community, we have a video walking through how to activate out-of-the-box policies and configure them to fit your needs. The final stage of the DPR adoption journey looks at expanding the policies leveraged by defining custom policies that fit your organizational needs. Additionally, at this stage, customers would look to use DPR in conjunction with complementary products like DevOps Change Velocity to automate change creation from pipeline executions, or IRM to drive more integrated risk management and compliance. Building and using custom policies will allow customers to automate in a data-driven way even more of their release validation. I'll also note here that creating custom policies will require ServiceNow development expertise to do, and this is a stage where we could see working with a partner being beneficial for a customer. One final comment on this adoption journey is that any step can be your entry point based on your maturity and goals with DPR, so don't feel that you need to start at stage 1 if you feel ready for stages 2, 3, or even 4. As a recap, getting the first value with DPR isn't all that difficult or complex. It can start simply with just moving your release processes to DPR and using manual activities and tasks that you can define as you see fit to manage your releases. Also, wherever you are in your maturity, you can step into DPR at the stage that suits your needs. And finally, expect that you can grow your maturity with DPR over time. We'll be continuing to invest in improving DPR's capabilities as well. If you'd like to refer to any additional resources, please navigate to the Digital Product Release community site, where we have other helpful videos and blogs.